everyone. I'm very excited to actually be talking to a beautiful guest, Sasha Stone, today. I don't feel he needs an introduction, but for everyone who doesn't know him yet, he's the founder of New Earth, Humanitas, ITNG, and also, yeah, really an activist and actually fighting for all the things that also very close to my heart. So welcome, Sasha.
Nice to see you, Nishanti.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. Sasha, you just start off like we met like a few weeks ago, and we actually got in contact by you contacting me. So can you explain why you did that?
Yeah, I'm very happy to explain why. I never reach out to people. I never contact people as a rule. And with you, I did because I was very, very impressed by your sincerity. I love the fact that you were acting as a bridge, as a conduit toward healing and toward consciousness in the way that you're doing it. I love the fact that you are in Africa. I love the fact that you are transmuting your own abuse and pain and trauma into a bridge for other women. And the way that you do it, I think is very, very sincere, very present, very loving, very authentic. And I don't see that very often. So that's why I felt very compelled to reach out to you and tell you that I loved your sincerity, your approach, and I wanted to help you in any way that I could to promote your voice. I mean, I think that the fact that you're in Southern Africa now, I know that you're not going to be there forever, but for me,
Yeah.
this is very, very important that that younger women like yourself who have already sincerely begun that alchemizing process of transmuting trauma and pain and abuse into the augmentation of consciousness and into healing and absolution and forgiveness. I mean, this to me is like the most rare and beautiful gift that anyone can be giving in this world. And I also, at the same time, I know how incredibly difficult it is. I mean, for you and for people like you. When I say people, I'm talking about young women who are putting themselves out there to act as that transmutative bridge, that medium. I recognize how incredibly difficult it is. It must be. I mean, I've thought about it. I've thought how that I'm a kind of radical, derelict, aggressive male bohemian. I can get away with murder. I can speak how I want. I can F and blind. I can be I don't need to. Yeah, I'm very mindful of the fact that I see in your journey that it must be fraught with some real practical difficulties. And I wanted to push myself into that space, and I wanted to learn from you, and I wanted to hear from you. What are the difficulties? What difficulties do you face as a woman who is involved in healing and consciousness? How the hell do you make a living? How the hell do you grow your network when the web is filled with just pornographic trivia, and social media is all about how big your tits are, or about what kind of angle you can throw on a beach in Costa Rica? How many people out there are just using social media or trying to use social media in the way that you are? And again, that's why I keep using the word sincerity with you. And that's why I love you very much, and your voice and your approach. And I just really want you're like my pet project. I really want, I really want you to succeed, because I know that when you really succeed at being that bridge to thousands of other women who are needing to transmute and transcend trauma, then I think we begin to see some real collective healing. So
Mhm.
that's my answer. That's why I reached out to you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. That's beautiful. And I really was like, okay, what's going on here? It made me actually feel uncomfortable because I'm not used for people to reach out in that way, um, to offer also support and guidance without any hidden agenda. And that's related to the trauma, actually, especially
Yeah,
from
of
a
course.
masculine
Of course.
energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yes, it was very interesting.
Of course. Well, trust me, I'm not hitting on you. I get hit on all the time myself. So that, that's not my reason. I'm not going to be hitting on a woman who's living in Southern Africa. Um, but no, I just really felt that it was real. And I'll be honest with you, I shed a few tears when I watched the first thing I watched you doing. I just thought, my God, this is so real, so authentic, and you need to be elevated, and your voice needs to be heard, and you need to teach other women how to also step out of that shadow and through that veil and own their space and throw their arms up at the sky and start to skip and jump and sing and dance and just remember who you are, remember your birthright, you know? And fuck the pain, fuck the trauma. All of that stuff is also stuff that comes in. It's part of a soul covenant, you know? We all of us steer ourselves into this world knowing exactly where we're taking ourselves at the soul level, you know? And we variously steer ourselves into very, very hurtful places that are going to hurt us. But we know that we've
Mm.
got what it takes to feel that pain, burn in that flame, and then transmute that into something else, and then act as a catalyst and as a light bearer for other people. That's what all of us should be preoccupied with doing and basically.
Yeah, yeah, I honestly believe that too. And like you said as well, it's for me really like empowering other women to raise their voice and the feeling that their voice matters and that they do matter. And just working with people, like so many women don't feel that. And there is still so much pain. And something else that we touched about last time when we spoken is that at some stage it's also okay to say, yeah, you're healed,
Yeah,
and move to the other side, and don't keep on going back
yeah,
to like the dive deep and everything. And that was a beautiful eye opener for me personally, because I could repeat that cycle over and over again, whilst now I'm like, okay, fuck that shit, you know, I've done so much work and I've done it.
yeah.
And yeah, that's beautiful.
I like that. I love that. Knowing when to let go, absolutely let go of the story. I was talking about this in the last couple of days to a few journalists on different interviews, because that's very much a theme that I feel is really important right now, today. Today, it's this kind of
Mm,
shedding of the skin, you know, and being
mm,
okay about really releasing myself from my fucking story. I mean, I'm good at that. I've released myself from my story a long time ago, and it was like the greatest gift I ever gave myself was to get over my own myth, the own legend that I
yes.
created in my own mind. You know, all of that narcissistic kind of messianic bullshit that most of us suffer from at some point in our life. You know, and then when you really own that, look at it and walk around yourself and go, it's okay. I don't need to live up to being a messiah or being a this or being a that or being the great savior or the redeemer of anything or anyone except for me here in the now.
Mm,
And just to love myself up and to be really okay about being in my skin, you know? I never used to, I used to be very concerned about not dressing the way I dress. So for many years, I was, you know, making sure I wore a proper shirt and I kind of trimmed my hair up a little bit and tried to not look like I am. And because I was navigating with my foundation and doing stuff with the United Nations and all of that, getting involved at the intergovernmental level and, you know, dealing with kind of powerful people. And so I was trying to conform in a way to halfway be suitable. And the day that I just decided, you know what, no, I'm never going to wear a hangman's noose around my neck again. I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to try to conform or fit into any kind of format for acceptability. I'm going to step fully into my irreverence, and I'm going to step fully into my being. And what am I? How do I feel? You know, I walk around, you know, in a sarong, barefoot. Now, the whole year, all year long, I do that. You know, it's just I'm very blessed. I don't want to conform to anything, and I think that that's connected to me also letting go of my story, um, in the same way that I think you're describing the need to absolve, forget one's trauma, forget one's pain, forget one's disguise and the masquerade, and just step into absolute authenticity and the joy that it brings back. And then, of course, when one is in authenticity, and you're in that. That's why I refer to it as the flame of pure truth. You know, I keep banging on about this theme, not because it sounds sexy, but because it's alchemy. It's real alchemy in the now. Step into your truth. Take off the clothes that don't serve you. If any part of what you're doing or being is constricting and energetically, you know, injuring you or depleting you or containing you, then lose it, change it, fit into the form that suits you. You know, absolutely. Shed the skin, forget your story, drop the trauma, walk away. How many healers, Nishanti, are healing because they are deeply, deeply wounded themselves and have not healed, and they put themselves out there to heal others? I think that's also why I really liked your authenticity, because it's so clear to me when I heard some of what you were saying and the way you were saying it, and you just got such a beautiful honesty. You push yourself, your big, beautiful eyes, you push yourself into the unknown, into the camera, and you speak to the world. Even if there's only 3 people, you know, on that thread, you're so present and you give yourself fully in the moment, the living. That is the stuff that transmutes and heals and transforms, you know. I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah. Anyway, let's move on.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. And what you're pointing out, like it's a story, and that's also you talking a lot about pure truth. I'm using a lot like the truth is your medicine. So for me, it's all about facing that truth and don't walk away from it. I'm the creator of my own life, so everything that has been playing out on soul level, I'm responsible for that.
Very good.
Like that were these soul contracts that I had with everyone involved. So for me, it's really making people aware of that as well, that it's just a story and that we now need to face our stories and make it a memory instead of the trauma, because we will carry it with us,
Good.
but it doesn't need to be that intense anymore once we dealt with it.
Yeah. And you know, there's another thing here. The elevation of art and beauty and consciousness, you may know, but I've been promoting this for many, many, many years, and inviting people to transcend time and money and fear, and to learn to transmute it into art and beauty and consciousness. Because if you understand what time is, and if you understand what money is, then you understand that time and money are the 2 horns of the devil called fear, and that anyone is in a state of constriction and a state of scarcity and entropy is in a state of fear. And if you're in a state of fear, you feel the need to acquire, to accumulate, to even steal, and to hold on to, and to accumulate money. And you regard time as being something that you measure by money, which is a disgusting thing. And that's the whole kind of Atlantean model of reality that we're still trying to awaken from. This idea that time is money. That's a disgusting idea, absolutely disgusting notion. Can you imagine any other planet, in any other sphere, in any other quadrant of the universe, where you come and you see these amazing celestial beings living on a planet, but they're actually unitizing reality into something called time, and then they're totemizing it into something called money? Why can't we be circumspect and see how perverse it is that we are allowing governments and churches and billboards and media and academia to also unitize reality and sell us these units and then monetize and securitize them? We need to elevate that into art, beauty, and consciousness. Just that, just that. Doesn't matter who you are, where you are. That is what you can do with that trauma that you're talking about, is you can say, okay, that was my story. It served me. I salute that pain. I salute that abuse. I salute that chapter in my life. I salute that wound. And now I'm going to lay a flower on that wound. I'm going to lay a flower on that wound, and I'm going to heal that wound. And the flower that I lay is going to be art. And I'm going to write a poem about that wound. I'm going to write that poem to my father, to my stepfather, to the dirty old foster father, or the whoever it was who abused and raped me, whoever it was that really fucking wounded me and turned my innocence inside out. Whoever that was, I'm going to pluck a flower and I'm going to gift that flower. I'm going to write a poem. I'm going to write a story. I'm going to paint a picture. And that's it. And I'm going to let it go. That is how we need to treat the stories, the narratives, the wounds, the scars, heal them, and then be absolutely free of them. And I mean absolutely. So I know for me, I can only speak for me, Nishanti. I know that I now walk in life absolutely free of those traumas because I've also had similar traumas, okay? I don't talk about them. I never speak about those things. But I know that I have absolutely transcended them. And I've absolutely elevated those scars and those wounds into flowers and into poems and into artworks and into great imagineering. And that's where we can take it. And then we don't ever need to refer to it again because it doesn't matter. And also because in the flame of pure truth, that wound, that event, that chapter, that scar was there to serve you, to be the texture against which you define your art, your beauty, and your consciousness.
But I think in the first stage, it's also like really working towards that point of feeling compassion for the abuser, or feeling transmuting that, because I honestly believe, I mean, there are a lot of bad people in this world, don't get me wrong, but a lot of people are acting also from a point of pain. So these people specifically, they actually need healing and love instead of the anger and the frustration. And that whole process, especially with pedophilia and sexual abuse, that's a steep process to go through yourself. And once you reach, that's just what I experienced, once you reach that, you feel first of all, compassion for yourself, because it all starts with self. Once you reach that level of compassion for self, you will also feel it for your outer world and the abuser. And then for me, it became easier to transform it actually into more beautiful things and starting to voice more things and speak about it. And because I started speaking about it, that's my drive, is so many women opened up only in the inner circle when I first started. And there are so many similar stories. I mean, we know about the satanic rituals and all that stuff, but there's so much going on in every single household in this world.
Yeah.
And a lot is related to sexual abuse and
Yeah.
pedophilia, and a lot is family related.
Yeah.
And just me speaking up and people feeling that it's truth, other people, and specifically women, are feeling comfortable to also open up. And that's why I do what I do, because that's all that we need, because then they can step into that authenticity and their truths and convert that into love and transmute that.
Bravo. And remember, there's other stories that are going on that we need to try to elevate our consciousness to understand the real reasons behind and the real motives. You know, what lies behind some of these acts of evil. I mean, if you take pedophilia, for instance, and rape and sodomy of infants and that kind of sexual abuse. So forget the ritual satanic element, because that takes it to a different level. We can talk about that, and we should talk about that. But let's just speak about kind of the more mundane, pedestrian, suburban kind of child abuse, you know? And you're right, it's going on everywhere. But it's also reflective at a civilizational level of the desperate need for people who are growing older to rekindle and get back in touch with their own loss of innocence. So this idea of molesting kids is connected to wanting to go back to claim some innocence that has been lost in these older, crustier people who've become kind of addled by life and by alcohol and by misery and by failures and by debt burdens and by anxiety and stress and all of the awful shit that afflicts human beings today in this kind of artificial reality. So there's a compression of that artifice and of that negativity and of those low frequencies that most of these people in suburbia are trapped in situations that are just hateful. They're never going to get out of debt. They're never going to own the house. They're never going to be able to live out their own dreams. They're constantly, and the teeth are falling out and life is miserable and the body's falling apart. And just, you know, that it's just an entropic decay once you hit that threshold. And sometimes it happens to people when they're in their late 30s, early 40s. They're still technically young, but they've lost it. Their hair's falling out. Their diet is so fucked up that they're already kind of moving into old age and decrepitude. And then they feel like it's over. The great dream is over. when you were a kid and you were kind of running along the beach or running in the forest and chasing butterflies and having these amazing transcendental dreams about what life was going to bring to you and how you were going to become a great pilot or a great, actor or a great, fucking choo-choo train driver, whatever your dream was. 99% of people are living in the shadow of the failure of their own great dreams. That's loss of innocence, and that catches up with you when you're getting older. And so in some perverse way, the only ways many of those blessed souls can get back in touch with orgasm is by stealing it. And they can't get it anymore in life by earning it because they're not attractive to others. And they haven't put the work in there. And so of course you look at this child, these young creatures around you that are, open-eyed and following you around and do whatever you say because you're the adult, and there's just this weird sublimated snaky energy that comes up, and then the next thing you know, it's a little fondle here, a little fondle there. And there is a tragedy to that. It is pathos. And if we can go into that space and try to understand that and cast plasma and healing into that locked paradigm in suburbia, we're going to do a lot to lift that. But we need to get away from money and from debt and from enslavement and from wage slavery and from the control of governments, and because all of that is the apparatus that creates that perversity. That's what I'm saying essentially. The problem is so much bigger than just a dirty old man or a dirty old woman.
For me, it's because humanity, all of us, still carry so much pain within that we haven't dealt with, and the collective and the government and everything that's playing out is a reflection of that.
Yeah.
So only once we start to do that inner work and shifting these things within, the outer is going to change, because it's really starting from within. That's what I have been experiencing. And in terms of of the abuse, what I also learned, like, it has nothing to do with the actual sexual interaction, because, like, and you can explain this better, it's like, for me, it was about the lights, it was about the kundalini energy, it was about what I was representing as a child.
Yeah.
And it had nothing to do with that other part, actually.
With what
But it
other
was more
express that?
of this, that, yeah, that nothing to do of the sexual part. It was
Yes.
the light that the
Yes.
people are after. It's
Yes.
the energy, it's the
Yeah.
kundalini energy.
Yeah.
You refer to it as the life force energy. That's what it's about.
Yes.
And
Raping kids is not about sex. It's very rarely about sexual gratification. It's about inverting the kundalini and stealing the force. That's exactly correct. And then that's the problem with that, is that becomes a fix. That becomes like a rush, a fix. That adrenalizes the perpetrator. And then as time goes on, it needs to get harder and harder. And then that's what invariably then takes you into darker spaces. And then ritual satanic abuse, obviously, is the labyrinth that opens up for you beyond that basic gratification of life force. But it's all stolen light. It's Luciferian light.
yeah, yes, exactly. And I mean, the ritual stuff, that's a whole nother level. What I'm focusing on, and also in my communication and the people that I trying to reach, is the people like you and me, like everyone. And there is still so much going on there in terms of gender-based violence and pedophilia and
Yeah.
stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And to jump on something else, like and we chatted about this, but I just want to also share this now in the sharing, like with the topic of adoption, right? Like, when I voice, for example, that for me adoption is a form and a way of human trafficking, I get a lot of pushback. People become angry, and then this thing pops up, which actually, oh, it's making me so upset, that people fall back in, but you should be grateful that you adopted in the first
Really.
place, because
Mhm.
you have such a better life now, and look at how your life played out. And yes, I mean, again, on soul level, I made all these choices. I know I did. I feel that in a very deep way. But it doesn't mean that something is legal on paper, like adoption, that it's not corrupt,
Yeah.
that there is not a lot of bad stuff happening, and people just don't want to get that it's a form of human trafficking. And
No,
I
and
would
I
love,
salute you. I salute you for raising that. And I hope you scream it from the rooftops, because um, I had a very a beautiful girlfriend for many years who suffered in the same way through the foster care. We're still very close friends, and she's a tremendous healer now herself, incidentally, and I plan to introduce you. But and I know her backstory. She was from Norway, and her backstory is connected to this. And I watched that girl from the age of 18, 19. I watched how she took that incredible trauma imprint, and literally through ayahuasca and through other means of that she chose through healing in India and South America. I watched her over many years just completely transform into the embodiment of angelic absolution and forgiveness. But through her, I learned a great deal. And then I went on to discover through the Judicial Commission of Inquiry into Human Trafficking and Child Sex Abuse that myself and my team launched in Westminster 3 years ago, with all of the testimonies that we took from police and investigators and crime commissioners and whistleblowers and people in the intelligence community and countless witnesses and survivors. Oh God. And then we learn about how many of them through the churches like the Mormons and through the foster care child protection services, how these kids are like, it's a harvest industry. This is not just happening here and there. This is a industrial harvest. And those institutions and those agencies, if they were not set up to be industrial pedophile agencies, they certainly allowed themselves to be commandeered and co-opted and taken over, including child hospitals. Okay, but this goes back. You talk about today, you look at great survivors of the mafia, like Gianni Russo, who's still alive and well at the age of 78, 79, and he's telling all the stories about what happened back in the 50s and the 60s when he was locked up with polio for 7 years in a child's hospital, and he had to murder the rapist warden who was raping children every single night, and he ended up stabbing him through the rib cage with a sharpened broomstick. That was the only way back in the day. But this is institutional stuff. Look at Jimmy Savile in England, the great friend of the royal family, and look at that story, how that came out in recent years. That was one of the most popular television icons and celebrity icons in British history. And what was he doing for 50 years? Raping little kids in hospitals whilst he had the key to the hospital, because he was the great uncle doing television shows and charitable marathons and what have you. But this is institutional, it's endemic, it's industrial, and I thank you for raising your voice. Scream it from the rooftops and don't stop. Don't stop. Foster care services needs to completely reinvent itself. Child protection services needs to be pushed into full dissolution. They've become a disgusting, evil, satanic entity in the main. And there are a lot of good people working in those systems who know about this, and they've reached out to people like us. They know, we know that they know, but they can't do anything about it. It's time that those agencies were completely annihilated and regrouped from the ground up. But unfortunately, that's reflective also, Nishanti, not just of children and child protection services and foster care services. It's also reflective of global banking and of global media, global academia. The entire monolith of our civilizational matrix has become so infused and suffused with evil, with wickedness and with corruption, with racketeering, with profiteering. It's time to just white it all out.
it's just, I think it's the pushback, and once I started doing some research and also reaching out to other people who are adopted, like there's a lot of data and figures in terms of foster care, but
Yeah,
adoption, again, especially like inter-country adoption, there's nothing. And that to me itself is so suspicious, because that's confirming my feeling,
yeah.
because they don't want these numbers to go out, so it's not there. But I know my own story, and by now I know many other stories which are very similar in terms of being adopted, in terms of the sexual abuse and everything in between. And for me, it's really like we need to start to talk about this uncomfortable topic, about these uncomfortable topics, and not to make it bigger as it is, but we need to shine the light on that dark sides in order for it to dissolve, or how you want to put it in that way. um yeah, but people, like, there's so much anger when you say that, and
Deal with that anger, bring that anger out. This is the a kind of calcification of the it's like, yeah, it's like the calcification of the dead logic that exists in suburbia, and it's just become calcified over generations because we've chosen as a society, as a culture, not to look at certain things, not to sweep under the bed, not to lift up the carpet and see what's lying under there. We sublimate things, we subjugate things, we throw them into the attic or into the basement and lock them and just never go in there into those spaces. But that's reflective also and totemistic of how we do the same thing with ourselves. We don't want to step into the flame of pure truth within ourselves. We don't want to resolve those unresolved aspects of ourselves, because to do so would be to look in a mirror, and to stare into a mirror, as you will know, hurts like hell for the first time, when you have to own that reflection, every aspect of it. And most people get through life without ever squarely looking at themselves in the mirror. And that's where sublimation and subjugation comes in. So it's, again, totemistic of a state of our civilizational matrix, that we have generally been too afraid to own the fact that we have been the ones who have been absolutely responsible, entirely accountable for the status quo that we spend our lives bitching against and about. And that's hard medicine for me to say I am the one responsible for the abuses that the police or the institutions, the governments, the are doing to me. I'm the one permissioning it. It's my actions, my tax dollars, my permission, my acquiescence, my obedience. Look at all these morons with masks on their face. These are the first kind of people who bitch and complain and wheeze about the status quo. And they're the ones wearing the mask and falling back into obedience the minute that the state dreams up some satanic pantomime. Everyone falls back and they don't even believe it, but they'll still obey and acquiesce and give permission, and then wonder why it hurts when the frog is getting boiled in the pot until it can't jump out anymore. So it's all symptomatic of that same capacity that we have had historically and generationally to subjugate and sublimate and hide stuff in the basement. I say, go and kick the door into the basement, kick the door in, and just let the light stream in. That's why I chose years ago to set up the International Tribunal. That's why I chose to go into human trafficking and pedophilia and child sex abuse and ritual satanic abuse and the nastiest stuff you could possibly imagine or countenance. I wanted to go into that space for me. And then I also wanted to be able to help bring that stuff out of the attic and out of the basement. And we've done a hell of a lot to do that. I know, because of the feedback that we get from around the world. But it's such a healthy thing once you know that. Any housewife or grandmother, that's granny logic, to go and air the cupboard out, and let the sun come in.
on that, Sasha, like with the masking, right? So this is just a question that I've been thinking about recently. What happens, in your opinion, to all these kids now, where both parents make the decision, and they are minors, right? Both parents make the decision to mask their kids, first of all, but also to vaccinate their kids. Like, how are these souls going to still break free from that, if it's both parents?
It depends on a multiplicity of factors. No one situation is the same. A child that is incarnated at a very high soul frequency is going to have projected themselves into this world in order to become the antidote for their own family, their own circle. So in some cases, those kids are going to be fine because their own heightened frequency, literally, which is operating through the microbiome, through the fractal antenna of the cellular DNA in the microbes in their body. And 98% of all of your microbial, what makes you a human, makes a biological form, is microbes. And so you've got trillions and trillions and trillions of microbes with their fractal antenna picking up these frequencies from different bandwidths, let's say, of creation. Some of them are heightened frequencies coming from the Pleiades and Alcyone and beautiful quadrants of the universe. And those beings are literally beaming as fractal antenna transmission from those states of being. And that's when you have someone with high frequency, you know it. We feel them. We can see them when they walk into a room. People with low frequency who are carrying a lot of kind of Alpha Centauri or Alpha Draconian energy, or kind of Sirian or Orion energy inside of them, because that's what's beaming through to them, because that's part of their DNA legacy or cosmogenetic story. And so they're also operating a lower frequency. There's going to be different stories playing out depending on the frequencies that we are attuned to. Number one, know that to be so, which is why it's very hard to have a one-size-fits-all answer to the question you just asked me. So what are these kids going to do? What's going to happen to these kids? Some of them are going to wear masks. They're going to end up rejecting their parents, hating their mothers and fathers, and their parents will suffer as a result of what they're doing to the kids today. Because when the kids wake up to the fact that they were literally abused, suffocated, stifled from their own parents because of their own parents' idiocy and banality and incapacity for truth, that they will resent their parents for it, and that will play out in the drama of their lives and their relationships, and their parents will ultimately learn hard medicine for having abused their kids through obedience to a tyrannical state that is operating under satanic principles. That's what you're going to get. That's quid pro quo. Other kids are going to come in and they're going to be abused, and they're going to be absolutely fine about it, and they're going to forgive and absolve and redeem and end up becoming shining examples in their own family, and their families' hearts will break one day when they realize that they fucked up really badly. And despite that, their child went on to do some great and good in this world. So there's all sorts of stories that will play out. I mean, the bottom line is that that if you're carrying heightened frequencies within you, you are more and more tapped into the quantum. So the higher the frequency, again, the importance of elevation of consciousness, art, beauty, and consciousness, because that takes us, literally draws our DNA resonance into a heightened state that is able to broadcast through the quantum field. So it doesn't matter what bugs there are or viruses, or you're not going to pick them up anyway, because you're not attuned to them. They're not within the laws of attraction. So there is no answer to that question. But in a broad sense, the abuses that we are collectively now leveling against kids by quarantining them, and by isolationing them, and by masking them, and then by force vaccinating them, it is such an abomination. It'll be the very last time in the history of our species that we are ever permitted under the universal gaze to enact that kind of evil and wickedness through our ignorance against kids. It's the last time it'll ever happen. So in a way, it's a very necessary sign-off in our civilizational wheel to the degree to which we have become fully unconscious and indentured to satanic principles as a civilization. So it's a necessary underscore before we tear the page and start again. Again, one has to ultimately view life as being perfect geometry. It's the only thing that makes sense. This is universal law. Every single thing that you see, every single thing that you experience, every single thing that you bear witness to is absolutely perfect in the now. So long as you acknowledge that is Alpha Omega. And then once you acknowledge that, you can move into your Atman, into your divine coherence. And at that moment, once you have stood in the flame, the white, hot flame of pure truth, and are conducting only right action and natural law in your life, now you have the supernature emerges and you have the power to manifest the outcomes that you desire through your elevation of art, beauty, and consciousness, how you choose to project plasma into this 3D holonomic field, which has moved more into fifth dimension. We know from the scalar, from the Hawkins scalar consciousness readings that we've been doing lately, and I'm working closely with these amazing folks on this, if you've seen any of the shows, we know that 16% of humans are now operating in 5D, so-called fifth density. So that's a huge increase on what it was 20 years ago, 200 years ago, 2,000 years ago. And as we move more and more towards these event horizons, like the one coming up in 3 or 4 days' time, you're going to see a huge influx of UV light coding coming in, and then moving more and more people. We'll do a reading next week after Shift Point on this, and we'll actually be able to see what the palpable difference was in before and after. And then 2030, which is another big kind of shift event horizon, and other ones that are coming, like the micronova events coming up in the near future in your lifetime. We can judge those events as well.
So, like, what would you say, or what would you, what would you say to all these people or beautiful women that are so afraid to actually look in the mirror? I mean, I wouldn't say I'm dealing with that a lot, but I'm quite out there. I'm direct, and that's actually scaring a lot of people
Yeah.
away, because for a lot of people it's too much. But I'm not changing my voice because I feel that's just who I am. But people are still so afraid. They don't want to look in the mirror. They don't want to face their demons. They don't see that it's better once they've gone through that process. It's actually that feeling of freedom, that you can breathe for the first time, and that you can feel, that you can truly feel. That's my experience, at
Yeah.
least.
Well, look, it's an important question, and it's about just owning the now. The only answer, the only thing I would say to any of them is, if you are still suffering, then good luck. Continue suffering. Suffer, baby, suffer. Those are my 3 words: suffer, baby, suffer. Because you will suffer to the wound and to the trauma for as long as you feel the need to suffer. At the point at which you have suffered enough, that will become the point at which you choose consciously to actualize within that suffering, transmute the suffering into a higher resonance expression, and like you've done, Nishanti, which is why I love you so much, and then take that new frequency expression forward in life proactively as part of the solution, as part of the affirmation, as part of the abundance and prosperity and upliftment and unfoldment and revelation. I can go on and on and on, because there's so much beauty to speak to in this world. And we should, all of us, be casting and projecting our plasma, our expression, into that bliss, that euphoria, that orgasmic expression. That's what we were designed to do. That's what these beautiful bodies are designed to do. They're designed to oscillate in orgasm, for God's sake. And then in that state of, and I'm not just talking sexual, I'm talking psychosexual, psycho-emotional, just be in a state of euphoria, increasingly just blend and morph into the oscillation and the rhythms of the water molecules and the rain and the clouds and the sky and the oceans and the lakes and the rivers and the flowers and the trees and the living soil and the smiles of other people and the beautiful radiance that's around us all the time, so long as we choose to be dialed into that. But if we want to be dialed into masturbation and Netflix and choking on cigarettes and chugging on cheap beer and wine and bitching and complaining about the status quo, and throwing stones at other people and castigating reality because you're failing to address those vacuums within yourself, well, fuck you. Suffer, baby, suffer. Now, to the women who've suffered, there's a different slant there, different story. I say I salute you. I salute you for being courageous enough and beautiful enough at the soul level to steer yourself into this world, knowing full well that you're going to be abused, because you're strong enough to then transmute it, transcend it, and then go forth and heal this world. So I salute you. That's what I would say.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I think I have still one more question, and we're running a bit out of time, so I hope I can still ask this one. Um, on that, in transmuting, like how I feel about it is being born in Sri Lanka with that family and then growing up in the Netherlands with a different family. One is blood related, the other one is let's say family related.
Yeah,
Um, how I experienced it is that we all clearing a lot, right? But that I'm also clearing these 2/4 lineages
yeah,
and the trauma and ancestral baggage from both of these lines.
yeah,
So for me, what I realized is that everyone who chose that path by default is a warrior
yeah.
because you already took on so much before you started this
Exactly.
freaking journey.
Exactly. Exactly. It's beautiful. And I mean, there's, if you want to anoint yourself into your new supernature, then do it. It takes one perfect moment in time for you to look perfectly into the mirror and exchange fire in the eyes with self. Look to the left eye, look to the right eye, look to the third eye. Just really see yourself and see your radiance and see your broken teeth and your pimples on your face and your little bald patch or whatever the fuck it is you're looking at. Just own it and love it and just salute yourself and all your scars and your wounds and your aches and your pains. Just salute that creature that you're looking at, for steering you through dimensions and through multiverses to be here in this incredible planet, which is the dividing line between the eternal wound and the eternal bliss. It's what this world is. It's what Tara, this earth plane, demarcates that indivisible line in the temporal universe. It's such an incredibly brave place for any of us to have steered ourselves to. And it's only ephemeral. It's not going to last for very long here. Yeah, we're going to move into the immortal paradigm in our lifetime, so we can choose to stay around for a few hundred years or 1,000 years or thereabouts. And then by that point, we'll be able to activate Merkaba and move into different dimensional states by plasma projection. That's entirely what we were born to do and to be. And once this fucking nonsense of governments and the Catholic Church is completely wiped out of our memory banks and absolved by each of us in the song of our DNA, and that's going to happen very soon. All of this bad logic out there of parking tickets and income tax and satanic public health administrators telling us to abuse our children and insane parliaments and congresses dreaming up these satanic corporation statutes. All of that bad logic and bad magic it's just juju. It's bad stuff. It'll disappear very quickly on the other side of shift, which is happening now. So we're going to see a dissolution of the citadel, of the crumbling Tower of Babel, and it's all over very soon. You don't need to pay too much attention to it. But what we do need to do is to step into the supernature and recognize that we can steer things to wherever we want to steer them. And it can only be in the neg-entropic, meaning to say the affirmative, abundant, prosperous, ineffable, immortal paradigm, because that's the texture that we're moving into. That's the spiral of Alcyon that we are now literally transmuting into and transforming into at the planetary level. So you can deny that that's happening and choose not to believe this and not to observe reality. And then you will believe that Anthony Fauci is a great guy and that Bill Gates is born to save you and that your government only taxes you because it really cares about you, wants to protect you. And the banks are only there to help manage your wealth, and doctors are there to really, get you better. And, and the lawyers are there to really help you and not to exploit you. You'll believe the status quo. You'll fucking die to it. You'll perish imminently. There's on the other side of shift in days ahead, there is no time left because we've just left the TikTok time. This is the end of the long count sulcan of the Mayans, literally in 3 days' time. In 48 hours from now. It's over.
Yeah, but are you saying then in 3 days' time that for everyone who is not able yet to see through the illusion, that they most likely will not wake up?
They will not wake up. That is correct. If people haven't woken up by now and attuned in any way, shape, or form to pure truth, then they're dead. They'll be off planet within a few months and years. Many people are going to choose to go that way, and that's also okay. I've been saying it. I'm shocked at hearing myself speak like this, but I have to speak to the truth that I bear witness to. I'm simply not prepared to make up stuff. I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it happen. And many people at the soul level, at the collective oversoul level, have chosen to move into the entropic paradigm and still clutch on to this Babylonian ideas of gravity, of time and motion, of death, of disease. And they believe that there is a threat everywhere out there. That's why they wear masks and they're terrified of going out and breathing oxygen. If you're afraid of oxygen, baby, you're in trouble. If you're afraid of carbon because you bought into that climate change war against carbon, be careful, because you declared war against the building block of life, which is the carbon molecule. So that was all part of Babylonian black magic, war against climate change and war against carbon. And all of that stuff is witchery, it's juju, it's black magic. And billions of people bought into it. Certainly hundreds of millions of people bought into it. But again, it's a choice. At what point do you tap into the inner navigation set and go, no, 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 I'm not buying into the informed knowledge or the informed wisdom or the informed mind control narrative. I'm not going to pay any attention to it. I'm only going to step into my Adamic privilege, which is to know what I know, see what I see, feel what I feel, and be what I be. That's what we are. We are the divine in flesh once we own it. But the status quo, the false light matrix, wants us to believe otherwise. So it is part of an orchestration of evil that is constantly trying to remove ourselves from that alignment to the divine principle and pull us and push us into discordance and distortion and a sense of worthlessness and helplessness, that we need the Catholic Church to intervene to save us, or we need the government to come in and protect and defend us, or we need the third party interference to save the day. This is the end of time. It's that there is no longer the need for the intercessionary. And that's the point of growing up and putting away the childish toys. We have to stand up on our feet now and become renewed Adamites, people, living sons and daughters of God, of the living soil.
Yes, it's really, really funny that you started about climate change, because I worked for a couple of years in climate change as a government advisor. And then I realized it's just a hoax because there is no climate change. And that's exactly what you are pointing out now as well. So that's beautiful. Yeah. So, Sasha, is there one last thing, like specifically for the ladies in this world, specifically for all these beautiful women that I want to inspire to be brave and to step into their truth? Because for me, that's really the medicine, and to start transforming whatever negative into a positive. Is there anything you want to, yeah, inspire them with?
Well, I hope I've inspired them with the last 55 minutes of blah,
Yeah.
because that's all I can do. All I can offer is the witness that I bear in the living now, which is an eternal truth, which is that you're beautiful, and that know that to be so. Own that, and stop buying the image that's being sold to you by society or by culture or by any third party. Just how do you feel? And if there's a part of you that doesn't feel good about something, then change that something, which is why you shouldn't pay income taxes. You shouldn't give away your hard-earned money to a satanic government. Pay your commercial taxes, your business taxes. That's honorable. But don't pay personal income taxes. Tell them to fuck off. Sign no contract, send it back to the State Department or the Treasury. Tell them to get stuff. They're breaking the law. They're all in contravention and abrogation and breach of the mandate. They're all conducting lawlessness and crimes against humanity. Fuck them. Don't buy into the status quo because you've been cult programmed into it. Learn to say, get stuffed. Learn to stand up on your 2 feet. Learn to rage. But don't take that rage out on other living souls. Take it out on the fiction of life. The fiction is the government. Governments don't have feelings, which is why I say tell them to get stuffed. 5G masts don't have feelings. The apparatus of evil out there that is all designed to track and trace and control us doesn't have feelings. If it offends you, get rid of it. Get rid of it. Do you like your government? No? Then fuck it. Get rid of it. Do you like your local municipality? No? Get rid of it. Do you like the rules and regulations that are completely defiling and degrading you? No? Then step out of it. Go. Leave. Leave the town. Leave the city. Go to another community. And don't have rules there. And we need to simply awaken from within that dream spell. That's happening anyway. So I'm speaking because I'm on the right side of history. I speak to international leadership all the time. I know where governments are heading. I know where the Vatican and the Crown of England is heading. I know where the transnational global Sabbatean Luciferians are heading. I'm happy to speak at that level. I'm speaking to people in those institutions. I know what's happening. That's why I have such authority and confidence when I'm speaking about this stuff. But the point is this. I'm speaking to the people you asked me to address, these blessed girls and women who are very much the mothers of this world. And if they're not mothers now, they will be within 5 years, within 10 years. That's the womb that will be seeded with the new human. And I just say, behold who you are. And if you don't feel good about something, then change it. And don't wait for instruction, and don't give permission, and don't feel as though you need to ask permission for anything in this world. As long as you're not causing harm or injury or loss to another living soul, go and do exactly what you want to do and be exactly how you want to be. Simple as that.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's beautiful. So, yeah, amazing. It was lovely chatting to you.
Like,
And thank you for your time. And yeah, I'm amazed that you reached out in the first place, as I said already previously. And I'm very happy for this connection.
I'm
I love
very
all the
happy
work that
to.
you're doing.
I'm very
So,
happy to, Nishanti, and I thank you for all the work you're doing. And I'm just very excited about your journey. And just know that I'm standing behind you a bit like a stalker, watching everything, because I so want your journey to be a beautiful golden highway. I know it is anyway. I can see already that. But I salute you and I thank you and I love you. God bless.